Hello, I'm Malcolm Hazlitt.
And I'm Janice Baker. What is a creative catalyst and a DOP?
I know.
You do?
Because they're our guests on Our Time Next. I just want to make a point.
Yes, and your point is?
My voice is back.
Well, it's better than it has been, let's
Oh,
say.
come on.
Oh, no, you are much better.
It is much better. It all happened last week, almost last week, and suddenly I lost all that falsetto voice.
I know, but
and
so
I've got
many people
back.
have been asking me, what is Malcolm taking to help his voice?
I know.
So, but he can't, because it's nothing to do with...
Nothing to do with any of those. But thank you so much for so many people offering advice. But all the time we knew that I'd actually damaged my larynx and it just was going to take time to heal because I'm 48.
Sorry, did we laugh?
That's
No.
my measurement around the tummy. So, we have two very special guests that we're both looking forward to having a chat with, who are Amanda Phillips and Alex Mitchell. Oh, that took a while. Alex, welcome. Sorry, Amanda, welcome.
Hi. Hi. I'm glad your voice is back too, so we can actually hear you. 'Cause
Yes.
I remember when I saw
I could
you at
talk
the Star.
beautifully like that.
I know, at the Star Theatres during Cinderella for TIDC or Adelaide Youth Theatre.
Yeah.
It was a little bit higher,
I was a
wasn't
bit higher there, yes. I was working on playing the Ugly Sisters.
No, but
I thought the fairy godmother.
Yeah. Well, yes.
Really?
I know. He's done that too.
I know.
No, she's
Actually,
done
I
that.
was the fairy
She
godmother.
was the fairy godmother.
Gorgeous.
Look, let's talk about you, not us, because we all know about us. Can I start with you, Amanda, because it started with you, about my knowledge of you, was it nearly 20 years ago? The Labor government here in South Australia called upon local arts practitioners to come together here at the Festival Centre.
During the Art Summit. Is that
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
And that's, you and I sat at the same table.
We ended up in the same group. And out of the things we talked about, an organisation, if you like, grew called the Out of the Square Network of Suburban Theatres, which provided lots of entertainment to older people and younger people and developed programs, one of which was yours. So before we talk to the man sitting on your right-hand side, just tell us, how did it begin for you, your engagement with the arts?
I first started here in South Australia, and I guess I was a ballet dancer with all the dreams that any little girl has. And my mum was teaching me dance and how to do the polka down the passage in Dulwich. I was in Norwood Ballet Centre, that's where I did my foundational work, and I went right through to my advanced exam. When I first auditioned for the BA dance course at the Adelaide University, which I guess it was the first dance course in Australia, it's now defunct, which, there's a whole lot of stuff to say about that as well. They taught us to be choreographers, they taught us to be analysts, they taught us to do hybrid work, which was very exciting. I also understand we were part of a movement then in the mid-1990s, which we didn't know was a movement when we were in it, but it was the electronic music scene, which Adelaide shares with Detroit as being the genesis of the electronic music scene. And it's an underground dance, music, fashion, hyper-reality, characters. We all went out and we performed all of the time. Cargo Club, Tapas,
You say, sorry to interrupt you, but you're saying we, how many are we?
Well, it was the club scene of the time, and that doesn't exist anymore. When we were often paid as performers, but we also just went out as performers because we were doing the BA dance course. So we were part of that scene. And Dr. Kathy Adamak, who you should talk to another time, has actually done a whole lot of research about that entire scene and its parallels with Detroit on a global level. So I did the BA dance course, and the audition was the first time I'd ever really done proper contemporary dance. And then my career as a choreographer started, and I went over to London. I did my master's at the Laban Centre. And Alex and I first met when I came back in one of my breaks. I'd worked in Zurich, in Switzerland. I'd worked in Vienna, in Austria. I'd worked in London, in the UK, and I came back for a short period of time.
And that was 2002?
Yeah, 2003 actually.
Oh, great.
You're
Was that
showing,
when we
you are
met?
showing your age.
Is that when we met? Was it
Yeah,
then?
it was
'Cause I
around that
trying to work out
time,
which year it
Malcolm.
was.
You're so
Okay.
right. It was during that art summit.
Well, while she was doing all that, Alex, what were you doing?
Well, I was doing composition at the Elder Conservatorium of Music, and so I was surrounded by like Graham Kerner and Graham Dudley and Stephen Whittington. From
And then he met me.
yes, yes. So I don't.
So
know
you led him astray.
You could say that.
But it was a great. But talking about things that don't exist anymore, there was a great little musicianship course where the composers would work with the singers, and we would actually put together a performance. And so that's actually what Amanda came in to direct.
And his talent shone through. So I asked Alex, that was in 2003, it was the stagecraft course at the University of
Stagecraft, that's it,
Adelaide. It was the opera singers, the young composers. And in 2004, I asked Alex, can you please compose for, because I was like, look, music and dance are bedfellows. They always
course.
have been.
Yep.
Let's do something live or let's do something together as collaborators. And the first thing we collaborated on was 2003, the Australian Dance Theatre Ignition Season with the work Manifest. And our collaborative relationship was born then.
Well, that's brilliant because I was part of that after the event because it toured our theatres. So, again, our paths crossed, and I remember seeing you in the background doing stuff and not quite knowing what you were doing at the time because you've always taken sort of a back seat, haven't you?
Oh well, yeah, well, kind of.
You're the instigator playing just off camera.
The
or
quiet achiever.
That's the
Is
one.
that the one?
Yeah, that's right.
He's not so quiet, in my opinion, but anyway.
So it's fair to say that you're also a couple in life as well.
That's right. We're both collaborators in art and life and
So-
partners in art and life.
Well, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Did the art form the collaboration between you, or did life form the collaboration?
I think Alex and I were both always passionate about... it was a real synergy. That's all I'm going to say. We collaborated for 8 years and we ended up going over to the Taipei Artists Village. We did a new work called Immersion through the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. And I guess it was years later that Alex and I came together in life also as partners. So our life is art, our art is life. There is no separation
It's
here
clear,
anymore.
knowing you both,
no.
it's clear that that's what motivates you. So just doing the history lesson for the moment. So what happened next for the two of you?
We did Experimentia live cut. Alex contacted me when I was over in Shanghai. I think we'd both actually also worked on the Shanghai Shifting Horizons program. I was one of the first international artists in residence at the Shanghai International Performing Arts Research Centre. It's a mouthful, SIPARC. And Alex
Quite
rang
a
me.
challenge too.
Yeah. I worked with like 30 actors and, 30 dancers and lots of teachers and educators in Shanghai. And I went on also to do a Churchill Fellowship looking at the cultural education and the difference between Asia and Australia and recommendations for Australia. And instead of having the cultural cringe, looking at things that we can do to adapt and change and to really, build on cultural education from a grassroots level so that we are a culture that accepts and appreciates and, holds art in high regard.
Well, that's necessary, but Alex, because you do a lot of backroom stuff, I guess, because you've got to compose by yourself usually. You don't have a whole lot of dancing girls necessarily dancing around you. Where does your inspiration come from?
Well, actually, that's exactly why I wanted to work within dance, because I felt like doing classical music, it did feel a little bit like sitting down and doing your own thing, and a lot of listening, a lot of studying of scores and those sort of activities. And I really enjoyed being able to work with other people, so I really wanted to...
Did you work in the same space, or did you... did the ideas come while you were with them and then
both.
you went home?
All permutations of what you're talking about. So what I really enjoyed to do was to see what Amanda was coming up with, or other choreographers, or in theatre and things, and those sort of activities, and to be able to see how I could fit into that and what I could do to, get a better outcome, or to actually help the vision of the director or the choreographer.
One of the works that we did right with Out of the Square and Golden Grove Arts Centre was called Crush for the I Hear Motion Festival. And there was only one incarnation of the I Hear Motion Festival. And we decided as collaborators to bring a choreographer over from Melbourne to work in a hot house for 2 weeks to actually do, I guess the only way to explain it really quickly is to say it was a lockdown in the theatre for 24 hours or 48 hours. And
Precious.
Alex, I know.
That
We
seems
brought the
extraordinary.
coffee in, that's
Yeah,
why
we
I
slept
know.
in the theatre. Alex slept under the bleachers.
Yeah, when Amanda says lockdown,
I
she
was on
means-
stage
she
at
means
2 a.m.
literally lockdown.
choreographing. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah,
That sounds
But sometimes out of
extraordinary.
those really crazy situations, amazing things happen.
yeah, that's right.
Alex, I'm interested to know, do you score what you write, or does the computer? Are you playing the notes on a keyboard and that's coming up on the screen?
Both. So yeah, I do all permutations of those sort of concepts. So yeah, sometimes I'll play the violin or piano or material like that.
Well, don't say you're multi-instrumental as well.
Well, yeah, well, two's not multi, is it? It's duo.
Well, it's more
And
than
the
one.
yeah, all of the above. But you also did the Guangdong Modern Dance Company work last year, which is a nice collaboration between Asia, China and Adelaide.
Yes.
But also, you've got to understand the other instruments to get the arrangements, to get the, you know, all the other things playing together. So you can play them in your head, maybe not with your fingers. Is that a fair way to explain
it is. For what Amanda was discussing just recently, just the other second, which was the Guangdong Modern Dance Company Commission. We worked with a cellist, Rachel Johnson, I believe, and she's a great Adelaide cellist. I think she's moved to Sydney currently, but with that material that we put together with her, I worked in a little bit of a different way, which was to come up with like bass tracks and then to suggest material that she was to perform, because it was a very short turnaround as well.
Okay, I get that. Speaking of short turnarounds, it's our short turnaround. Time for a break.
Yes.
See you in a tick.
We're with Alex Mitchell and Amanda Phillips.
We are. Why is art so important, do you think, in our society?
That's a big question, isn't it?
That's a big question.
Short
and
answer.
I'll try to sum it up. We actually addressed this during the arts plan for 2019-2024 as the independent dance sector. And I think that arts is so important because it can cross over into all levels of thinking. It can create the people, it can create experiences for people. So art, I guess when you go through life, you can remember, for me anyway, as an artist, I can remember the times that my mother took me to performances.
Oh, me too.
It takes you into a new world.
It does.
So it affects your
Particularly
life in new ways.
live, Amanda, don't you feel?
Oh,
Particularly
absolutely.
live. Seeing
Absolutely.
real people doing real stuff.
Yes.
Don't you
Oh,
feel?
absolutely.
And
no, I agree.
even virtual reality now, one of our most recent works, 2016, is Botanical, which is a virtual reality work, which we got Fringe Festival funding for, and it takes the children and the families into a new world. It's an augmented reality, and I think anything that allows you to pop out into a new world is something that, you know, allows you to change.
dream.
The cinema
dream,
does it
yeah.
for us, but it's a
Yeah.
different thing than having this rather personal experience than just watching somebody else on a screen have a personal experience. If that does that make sense?
Sure, and it can affect social change. It can affect the standards of society. It can bring people together. These are the things. This is why we do what we do.
Yeah.
Other than just being inspired to.
Have you always, this is something that you've always wanted to do? Well, as you say, you'd had dancing
Yeah.
classes when you were young. Was your mother a dancer, or how did she come to encourage you that way?
There's a lot of art in my family. So my grandfather's...
Got pictures all down the hallway, haven't you?
yeah, all of that.
A lot of
My-
art
my-
in the family.
My grandfather, on my mother's side, his brother used to own the Harndorf Academy, and he rescued that. So there's
Oh,
visual
really?
art. And I guess our work now, because we're in the digital domain,
Yes.
also crosses over both visual and the performing arts. And that's something we're very passionate about, is affecting change through experiences that inspire and that are unexpected.
So when did you become a whiz kid in that domain, in the digital domain?
I think it happened quite slowly, as things do.
Did it develop from uni, or was it just a personal interest?
I think at university I was definitely feeling that was the way that a lot of music was going, and I wanted to experiment with sounds that, you know, like, I mean, there's also a very old tradition, also like music concrete, of experiments with like tape and those sort of devices, which would allow different sorts of sound. I mean, if you don't need to look back that far to look at like Merce Cunningham and John Cage, who is another example of a composer choreographer relationship. And you know, to try to experiment, and I think that's what brought Amanda and I together artistically, is that it was something that was so experimental, and just to see what would happen.
Well, absolutely. With like some of our work, it's not Alex's idea or my idea. It's the collaboration that meets somewhere in the middle, and like with experimenting.
Partnership.
Yeah, with Experimentia Live Cut, which was a 3D stereo work, which you saw, Malcolm.
Yes, I did.
That was a different experience for the audience. It took people by surprise,
yes,
because the dancers came out of the space. And this is before Avatar. And Alex and Jonathan Ma, who now works for Apple in America, programmed a multi-touch screen that was about this big. And I'm doing like 1.5 meters by whatever, a metre. No one knew what a touch screen was.
No,
this is pre-2007.
Yes,
And so
you
now
were there madly doing and things.
Everyone
happening.
knows what a touch screen is now, but then they didn't. So I guess it's
quite.
the experimentation of new form.
Did you win the Ruby Award for that?
We did, the Ruby Award for Innovation.
Right.
Yeah.
The Ruby Awards are given here in South Australia in remembering Dame Ruby Litchfield, who was a great arts supporter, practitioner and theatre instigator, from whom I'm actually very grateful, because she started me off in television, but that's another whole story.
Yeah.
So what's the future for you? Because without being too personal, because you have an illness now that you're coping with.
I guess medically one would say that I live with cancer, but I'm in a percentage of people, like a 3%, who have managed to get past the 5 years. And when I say that, it's not actually about early detection. It's not about a small lump that was found in my breast for breast cancer. On diagnosis, I was what they call de novo, which is from the get-go, unfortunately, and maybe fortunately, which is something that I'd like to talk about. Fortunately and unfortunately, I was diagnosed as stage 4 metastatic breast cancer in about October, November 2013. And life stopped. I was like, but I haven't finished. I'm 39 years old and I haven't finished. And I want to perform more. I want to act more. I want to be on film. I want to do performance artworks. And so we then went on to do Midlife Love Letters, which is really, I guess, a reflection of that point in time, which is, it's a 9-channel interactive piece that people can watch one-on-one through little windows, and the videos come alive as they look through the window.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a work that's hard to describe on screen right now, for you now and for your audience. But I guess the takeaway is that there's no time like the present,
Absolutely.
and that where there's life, there's hope.
Yeah.
And I am so fortunate for the Australian medical system. And even though I was diagnosed as stage 4, and not many people really talk about this demarcation and the semantics around it, I know that I struggle personally with it, and whether I'm an advocate for it or a beacon of hope for someone else or an inspiration. To say I'm stage 4 breast cancer is something that's actually very difficult for me to acknowledge or admit to. But I am, and it's all to do with timing, and therefore I was treated as a stage 4 patient from the start, which may be why I'm alive today. So a small lump, barely detectable, but I was actually already stage 4. So it's to do with the expression of that breast cancer. It's another
amazing.
whole world, yeah.
Alex, how did this affect you?
Oh, I was a bit of a mess, I think, wasn't I? I mean, you could probably...
Who supported who then?
Well, that's a good question.
It's like sometimes you just got to look at the outcome of anything and just forget about your emotions and just go forth and do it, sort of thing. And I think that's, I was a mess internally, but I think we just went forth and did it.
Do you know what was so amazing during this time? And it's something that I'd love you to see, is that Alex and my mother and my father, who was alive at the time, and he died later on he died a couple of years after my 40th. So my 40th was in 2014. And I should bottle whatever it is that I'm taking, apparently, according to lots of people. That's another whole program.
I was going to say, no,
yeah, I know,
'cause you do,
I
you
know,
do
I
Another
know.
whole info commercial.
Yeah, it's another whole info commercial, folks. But they arranged this surprise 40th. My dear sister, my brother, everyone in my family, my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law, Vince and Keris, they all rallied together and they created this incredible surprise 40th, which was Masquerade. I also need to mention my dear friend Sydney at that point.
Sydney Henbest.
Sydney Henbest, yes. The Henbest.
She
the
hasn't
best.
been on our program.
Well,
She's somebody we must
her in
get.
this
Yes,
chair.
exactly.
So I walk into this surprise 40th and everyone turns around with masquerade masks on during the Cabaret Festival.
brilliant.
It was delightful. It was that, coupled with working on Midlife Love Letters for SALA 2014, the South Australian Living Artists Festival, that really pushed us through that time. Because let's be honest, when I was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer in October, November 2013, I was a dead girl walking. That's how I was treated in the medical system.
Do you think having your positive attitude about what you do has been helpful to you? I mean, you're having treatment, aren't you, still?
I still go every 3 weeks for intravenous antibodies in the Oncology Day Centre at the Royal Adelaide Hospital. It's a wake-up call. Every time I go in there, it's a reminder. It's a reminder of how life is so precious.
We can't waste a moment.
No, absolutely. And I guess the thing is that I'm a miracle, and God's miracle, my own miracle. However, whatever collided in that moment that allowed me to have that stage 4 treatment from the get-go, I had no surgery and no radiation, just the chemotherapy and now the intravenous antibodies. So I'm on Herceptin and Perjeta intravenously. The nurses at the Oncology Day Centre are incredible. Dr. Sid Silver, my oncologist, is phenomenal. He likes to keep me abreast of things. No pun intended. He sometimes makes that joke and he doesn't realise it's a pun, which is why he's so charming. He goes to all these conferences all over the world where I'm sure I'm a case study on paper. But he doesn't realise that he's being funny when he says he'll keep me abreast.
Yes.
Anyway, Alex, any other...
But is it the positivity you both share? That's the positivity of having a reason to get up in the morning and not fear, what could happen. Do you think?
I think that's definitely helpful. I think it can't hurt. No.
Let's just discuss this a little more. We've got to take a break and we'll come back with that discussion in a moment. No, you.
We're back. No, you.
No, you. We're here with Alex and Amanda Phillips, and we've just been talking about the treatment you've been having for cancer. What's your positivity now? Where is it coming from? Where is it going?
Well, I'm alive, so life is a gift. And that's really the truth of it. I've got these beautiful nieces and nephews. We've got work to make and a legacy to leave. And that's what motivates and inspires me. And I guess if you make a difference in one person's life, a day or a year or whatever it is for you, that's what motivates and inspires me, whether it's Alex's music or whether it's a kooky idea that he says yes to. Like our work, MASS, which is called Moving Audience Street Sculpture. It's a digital magic mirror. And it's often booked at events. It was in Bank Street for 2 years, and people can. It's a digital magic mirror. It's on 24/7, so people can book that and look at themselves and change space. And it's an experience that takes people outside of their reality.
So really, everything that you're doing is really based on that, giving people an experience that isn't going to work every morning and coming home and having dinner around the table or whatever you do. It takes you to another reality.
We do things now, I think, that since my diagnosis, maybe we really assess what matters and what works matter, what could make a difference. So when this recent Flinders University project came across my desk, Alex and I have co-created a work that's going out into primary schools with Professor Phillips, who's a psychologist, on cyber, verbal, physical and social bullying. And that work is going into, it's going into primary schools, and it's utilised as a resource to allow teachers to bring that conversation into the classroom. That
Amazing.
makes a difference. That
Amazing.
matters to us.
Why
It does.
just the primary schools? Could it go into other schools like high schools as well?
Yeah, it
Does
should do. And I think they already have a program that's in secondary schools, and now they're bringing it back to primary schools, which
I
is
see.
probably a sign of the time.
We honestly wish you all the best to
Thank
both of
you.
you for continued success in the future. Unfortunately, we have to go, but we're going to keep chatting. Thanks for being part of our time this time.
Yes, thank you. Stay safe.
Keep yourself nice till we see you next. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.